Ever wonder who's pulling the strings when a company goes public with an IPO? You know, who are the masterminds behind the scenes making it all happen? Well, they're called merchant bankers, and they are the undisputed gatekeepers of India's capital markets. But what rules do these powerful players have to follow? So today we're going to pull back the curtain and get right inside their official rule book.
All right, so first up, what is a merchant banker, really? Well, according to the official regulations, they're the pros in something called issue management. You can basically think of them as the master architects for a company's big debut on the stock market. They handle everything, structuring the deal, advising on the price, and making all the arrangements to get those shares into the hands of the public. They're pretty much the central nervous system for any public offering.
Now, you can't just wake up one morning and decide, hey, I'm going to be a merchant banker. It just doesn't work that way. SEBI, that's the Securities and Exchange Board of India, they've basically built a fortress around this job, and for good reason. It's all about making sure only the most credible, serious players get a license. This whole process is designed to protect the market's integrity and, most importantly, you, the investor.
So what does it actually take to get past the velvet rope? Well, there are 3 huge hurdles you have to clear. First, you can't just be one person. You have to be a body corporate. Second, you need some serious financial muscle to meet what's called capital adequacy requirements. And third, you have to pass the fit and proper person test. That's basically SEBI's way of making sure the folks in charge have a squeaky clean record and actually know what they're doing. And when we talk about financial muscle, we mean it. For a top-tier Category I merchant banker, the ones managing the biggest IPOs, the minimum net worth is a whopping 50 crore rupees. But look, this number isn't just a barrier to entry. It's about ensuring these firms have serious skin in the game. It means they've got a huge financial cushion, and more importantly, they have a lot to lose if things go south, which pushes them to act responsibly.
Okay, so let's say a firm makes it through and gets registered. From that moment on, their entire business is governed by a super strict, mandatory code of conduct. And this isn't just a set of friendly suggestions. It's a binding rulebook that lays out the ethical and professional standards for literally everything they do. Let's dig into a few of the big ones.
The very first principle is all about character, integrity, dignity, and fairness. And there's a reason this is rule number 1. The entire market, the whole thing, runs on trust. People are investing their hard-earned money, and they have to believe the gatekeepers are playing fair. And let's be clear, this isn't some nice-to-have guideline. It's the law.
All right, this next one, this is where the rubber really meets the road for protecting investors. The term due diligence means they have to check and double-check every single claim the company makes. They can't just take the company's word for it. They've got to kick the tires, go through the books, and use their own independent judgment to make sure the information investors see is legit and complete.
Okay, this one is huge. It's all about avoiding conflicts of interest. You see, a lot of these firms are part of bigger financial giants that also do stockbroking or lending. This rule forces them to build a wall, some people call it a Chinese wall, between their different business units. The advice they're giving has to be 100% for the client's benefit, not to secretly line the pockets of another part of their own firm.
So that's the high-level code. How does that translate into the daily grind? Well, the regulations also spell out some very specific, hands-on responsibilities. The stuff they absolutely have to do every day to keep things transparent and accountable.
And right at the top of that list, keeping a paper trail, a really, really detailed one. Every decision, every analysis, every bit of communication, it all has to be documented. This isn't just about being organized. This is what lets SEBI, the regulator, walk in at any time and see exactly what they did and why. It's the ultimate accountability tool. And believe me, the rules are super specific about this. Key documents, from their internal reports to official letters with SEBI, have to be locked away and saved for at least 5 years. This creates a long-term record that holds them accountable for the deals they did long after the dust has settled.
Okay, so we've talked about all these tough rules to get in and all the things they have to do once they're in. But what happens when things go wrong? What happens if an investor feels like they've been treated unfairly? How does the system make sure there's accountability?
And that's a really important question, right? For a market to work, people need to know there's a way to get help if there's a problem. So if you're an investor and you have a complaint against a merchant banker or the company whose IPO they managed, where do you even go?
The answer is a platform called Scores. Think of it as a one-stop shop for investor complaints. So instead of trying to figure out who to call or email, you just file your grievance in this one central online place, and every single registered merchant banker has to be on the system and is required to respond to complaints quickly.
Now you've got to know, Scores isn't a magic wand for every single problem. It's laser-focused on issues that fall under SEBI's world. Things covered by the SEBI Act, the Depositories Act, and parts of the Companies Act. It's not a catch-all for everything. For example, you can't use it for complaints about unlisted companies or for issues that are already being fought out in court.
All right, so let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? Well, first and foremost, every single one of these rules is about one thing: protecting investor money. Second, these strict regulations are what keep our markets fair and transparent. Third, being a gatekeeper isn't just a fancy title, it comes with a ton of responsibility. And finally, those high barriers to entry, they're there for a reason, to make sure only the most serious and qualified firms get to manage public money.
And that kind of leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? With a rulebook this tough, this detailed, this demanding, are merchant bankers truly the ultimate guardians of fairness in the market? For all of us who invest and watch the markets, the real question is, does it all actually work? It's definitely something to think about the next time you see a company getting ready for its big IPO.